Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing super awesome. It's Heather. Today I have Jackie. And you guys know already that this is actually my favorite thing to do. I mean, I love podcasting. I love coming on and saying hi to everybody in all the various forms. But I love the celebrity chat day because I meet very cool people. Yeah, I know.
I'm a
I
celebrity.
You're a celebrity. I meet very cool people, and I always learn something new, no matter what it is. Like, I always come away going, "Wow, I did not know that." And today, I expect I'm gonna learn tons of things because I already had a brief conversation with Jackie before, and I was like, "Wow, that is really amazing." So today, I'm talking to Jackie Cote, and she's not from anywhere, which is pretty awesome, and I think that's actually pretty cool.
That sounds so funny. I'm not from
I know.
anywhere. I love that.
She's not really from anywhere. Well, I'm sure at some point you were, but when I first spoke with you, you're like, "I don't have." It used to be not a favorable thing to have no fixed address, but now it's so cool. Now
Hmm.
everybody wants to have no fixed address, but you are coaching, and you don't need a fixed address for coaching, right? So
Mm-mm.
first, let me ask you this: How did you how did you fall into the world of coaching? I feel like we all fall into it.
Yeah, no, we do. We do. And then sometimes we don't realize we've been doing it our whole lives until we start doing it in our own business. Then we go, oh, this is what I've been doing for the last 30 years and didn't
Right?
realize it. So, for coaching, for me, coaching in my own business, let me put it that way, kicked off in 2018, 2019, because I did 30 years in the restaurant leadership management field, and I was always in a role of coaching and mentoring people and helping them get to the next level, holding that gift of belief for them in companies like Starbucks and Potbelly and Outback and larger corporations. And my favorite part, people always ask me, like, how could you be in the restaurant business for so long? Because it's long hours, it's crazy, it's, nights, weekends, all the stuff. And I was like, it's the people. It's like, because I get to change people's lives by promoting them up the ranks into higher positions, making more money. And I had people that I promoted exceeding me, like they would pass me in some times in some of the companies. And I really love that. And the last 2 years of that career, I ended up in taking a challenge, which at the time I was like, this will be different. I went to the corporate office. And when I went to the corporate office of a company, helping them open up, I did one of their restaurant opening gigs where I went across the country and I opened up restaurants up and down the East Coast and then the West Coast and stuff like that. And it was great, but it was like something was missing. And I pulled
Right.
myself from the part that I loved and I didn't realize was my gift. So I knew I was good at it, but I didn't realize how much I craved it every day and it was what I loved to do until I moved myself out of it. And that 2 years was like, that saying of like putting like a square into a circle or a circle into a square, peg into a hole. It just, that was me. Like I was like an animal in a cage, first of all, because I'm in a corporate office and I'm not out in the field all the time. And so fast forward, I started the coaching schooling because I saw one of my friends. When you see like, your peers because they're not like we're all not fully happy with what we're doing because we're in a job and we're like something's missing. He started talking about all this like stuff about coaching and happy stuff, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So I called him
Happy
up real
stuff.
quick and we had an hour
What's this happy
conversation.
stuff?
Happy stuff, right? And I'm a happy person. I mean, this is what you get. Like this isn't fake, but I'm talking about like real happy. It was like something different. I could sense this like different energy about him. And he's like, he gets on the phone with me. He goes, imagine doing everything we love that we do currently in our positions, but without having to be told when to do it, how to do it, and not having to like ask for permission to take a vacation and this and that. And I was like, that sounds magical. Like, what is this thing?
It's a
And so
fairyland.
it's a fairyland, right? And I don't know about you, but like coaching, I only thought of football coach, soccer coach, those kind of coaching. I didn't know there was this thing called coaching
Right.
industry that had been built and that was out there. And so I started the schooling that he was doing, and it was like a couple $1,000s, and I hadn't been in college since '94. And I'm like, well, let's go back to school, right? And so I jumped into that, and within a month, I was like, oh, look at the possibility. Like I'm like witnessing the business that I was coaching with, but then also like learning with, but then also people like running their own coaching businesses. And I'm like, and then I started to understand what coaching was. And I was like, what? I can do
Right?
this? And then 2 months after I started the schooling, Heather, I got fired. I got let go from my job, and
You
I got
released into the universe so you could do what you were meant to do.
yes, yes. From so in the day of, you get the feeling of, ooh, wow, okay, I'm getting escorted out like a criminal because they're letting me go, but they have to escort me out so I don't go bananas, which I wouldn't, you know. And then I'm like losing my 6-figure income. I was close to a 6-figure income job at that point. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, why do I feel so good? Why do
Right?
my shoulder? Why do I like why like there's this duality of like, oh, that sucks, to like, oh, I feel really good, because it was like this for 2 years, and I finally went, like you said, I'm like, this has got to be a sign, right? But I did
Right.
what a good girl does, and I applied for other jobs. I went for other jobs and stuff, and I got them. And I got to tell you this one story of what kicked me into my coaching business truly. Is I got on the phone with an interview with a guy with another company, and it ended up being a guy that used to work with me in a different company. And he stopped and he goes, "Oh my goodness, I know you. I would hire you in a heartbeat. But tell me what you really want to do." And I was like, "Why are you asking me this question?" And hold on, and if my dogs go bananas, it's because someone's here with, you know, they
It's part of
yeah.
being on a stream. Life happens, as we were discussing right before I pressed record.
Yep. So he said, he asked me like what I wanted to do, and I told him about this new coaching thing, and I explained the whole thing, and he's like, "How much money do you have saved up?" And I was like, "Well, if I like sell my house and I go into a rental and this and that, and I could live for a year." He's like, "Great." He goes, "Try it out, and I'm not giving you the job." He's like, "Try it out, and I'm gonna come back to me in a year if it doesn't work out." So he basically in that moment told me, "I'm not hiring you, but I'm giving you permission to try your own thing and to go out on your own
Wow.
and bet on
You should
yourself."
send him a thank
And
you
I was
gift.
I it's so funny because I'm like, I'm trying to find him. Like, I'm trying to find him and trying to like, I haven't been able, I will locate him, but I have to locate him and tell him, like, I don't know if you know the impact that one call had on me, because
Maybe
it
he has
really
no
like,
fixed address.
yeah, right. Well, he said to me, he goes, if I could do, if I could do what you're doing, um, but I have family at home and this and that, he's like, I would do it in a heartbeat. And so I want you to go do that. And then, let me know if it doesn't work out. He's like, I have a job for you. And I was like, okay. And from that moment on, I took some time off, and then I kicked into the coaching business. About 6 months later, I like officially went 2 feet in and all in and hired my own coach, and then built what I have today. So that
Right.
was 2019 is when I really said, okay, putting my flag down. But you know what's cool about that 6 months? That 6 months after I decided that I wasn't going to go get a good job, I actually vacationed 7 times. I was living on unemployment, and I was like doing my schooling, and I was like, I don't have to ask for permission to go anywhere. I'm
Right.
like, what? I'm like, I can just go. I don't have to ask for permission and do all this stuff. And I just went vacate like 3 days here, 4 days there, and this and that. And once you taste that freedom, that's why I talk about freedom. That's my foundation of my platform. Is that once you taste the freedom, you never want to go back. You never want to go back to like not having it.
And it's
Hmm.
interesting that you needed him to give you permission. Like
We,
sometimes we need
yeah.
somebody to give us that permission slip, right? Like, yeah, you can decide. Here, you can
Mm-hmm.
do it. And we had the pet. We often like there's extenuating circumstances where you don't, but we got the power all the time, right? And it's just we like, I don't know what to do with this thing.
Mm-hmm. So
Right.
I it created a new saying that I have. It's like, what's a goal of mine is like, I want to do what I want, when I want, wherever I want, however I want to do it, without having to ask for permission from anyone, including myself. Because that's usually the person that puts the kibosh on a lot, is ourself, right?
Totally. So
So,
true. It's I have a friend who calls it it's like the little voice on her shoulder. She's got a name for it. She's named this little voice on her shoulder, and it's the critical, you can't do that, you can't do that. You have to do this way, you have to do this way. I s- I thought it was
yep.
like, wow, she's given it a personality and a name so she can talk to it and she can tell it to be quiet when she needs to. right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. How many voices do we all have, and how many people do we talk to ourselves with?
Right? Oh, I hear your dog.
I love it.
Plink, 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 plink.
Yep. Yep.
And
She's
I
like
was
underneath. I'm
serious.
like, just,
Yeah. It's like you did totally go fully freedom. Like you actually don't didn't even tie yourself down to a specific home anymore. You're just out exploring the world and helping people with their getting I call it getting out of your own way. I'm always like hashtag
yeah.
get out of your own way, right?
Yep.
Who's
Hmm.
stopping you is probably mostly you because you think whatever the story is that you've been telling yourself about why you can't do something
Hmm.
and it's so true. I like you were talking about when you went into the corporate world, you were suddenly like, I'm not having fun anymore. And um, because I was in corporate for 15 years and I was the same. I mean, when I took that step back to say, um, what is it that I am enjoying? It was actually the people, not the work, right? I was in
Yeah.
finance. I was in finance.
Yeah.
So I was like, I love hanging out with all these people and having conversations but the rest of it I could do without. So
Yeah. That's so true. That's a really good point, Heather. Like, I always thought it was the restaurant business that I loved. Like running restaurants, I thought that's what I loved. And when I separated out of that, I realized what it truly was the mentorship part of it.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it takes
So true.
sometimes like you managed to take 6 months off to have that space to really get a time to kind of figure out what you did want, right? And not everybody
Yeah.
has that, but I don't know that you necessarily need it all the time, but
Hmm.
having some space is nice. Having
I
vacations is
I
good.
looked at it. I gotta tell you, like, I've been working since I was 14. I've paid for everything my entire life, from college to my cars to my insurances, clothes, everything, since I was 14, 15 years old. And that was when I sat there and I was like, when we have the belief and capability, combination of belief with the capacity to do it, I was like, I gotta do it. Now, don't get me wrong, my savings started going like this, and my debt was going like this in the first year, because 6 months off and then 6 months to build to start making money. And I was like, ugh, my nervous system, because you talk about
Right.
finances, I was like, debt is bad. Debt is bad. And my savings is gone. And I'm like, guilt, shame, shame, shame. So I was going through all of that, but I needed to go through that to be able to rewrite that story, like you talked about earlier. I
Right.
needed to go through that feeling of spending joyfully without having to be like that buyer's remorse. I needed to go through knowing that what's in my bank account and what's on my credit cards doesn't define me. It doesn't make me bad or good. I needed to know that, like, I get to do all the parts of saving, spending, making, all of it joyfully. And but it was a roller coaster.
I get you. I totally get you. Having been gone from the giant corporate job to being a yoga teacher, like that's a big switch right there. And it's funny that you said that you had never heard of coaching before, like when you first started encountering it, because the first time I encountered it was someone who came into my yoga studio. And this is so funny. I was like, is that a real job? That was that's not a real job, is it? Like, do people do that? And I left it. I thought it was interesting, but I just left it for about 10 years on the shelf as like, that's not a real thing. That can't be a real thing until I found actually, because I'm also a personal trainer, and they came to a conference I was at, a group of people who did coaching and trained coaches. I'm like, oh my God, it is a real thing. And I got like you, I got my own coach, and I'm like, this is actually really awesome. And
Right?
my whole world just went with potentials of how many
Hey,
people can I help, right? How many
100.
people can I help? I can in the health
Mhm.
and fitness space, I can help people with their physicality, but all I saw that was treating
Mhm.
a symptom, right? Treating a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I talk about wellness
Mm.
now, there is a
So good.
physical wellness, but I also talk emotional, professional, financial, relationships, spiritual, like the whole gamut. And going
Mm-hmm.
into the going into the underneath bits, right? Like
Yeah.
what's really going on? Because if we fix the underneath bits, everything else will flow so much easier. And I liked how you
Right.
said that's your awaken, right? Awaken, empower
Yeah.
your vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So what you I like something I like to say about, I call it 80-20, like what you're talking about, and is 20% of it strategy, like the how to.
yeah,
80% is between these two ears. Like,
yeah,
and I love that you said that you work on all of that behind the scenes with the clients, and not just the how to. I love that.
right. Well, and you can't, even if you tell someone how to, like, it's kind of like trying to learn how to do brain surgery from YouTube, right? So I can tell you all the parts and I can show you a video, but how to isn't going to necessarily help you unless you can kind of get some deep down back and forth experience engagement, maybe even talk to the surgeon about like like it's
Mhm.
not, you can't just read and absorb. Like there's people, I know there's people who can do it. There's probably someone in the world who could totally watch a video and do brain surgery. But for average human beings, there's like an engagement factor that I think broadens your experience and broadens the ability to process the information, to figure things out. I could sit all day and think about to
Mhm.
myself what's going on, but it's like you need that person outside of you sometimes to say, "This is what I'm seeing." And you're like, "I've had my coach do this." He'll say, "This is what I'm seeing." I'm like, "What are you talking about? How did that happen?" You know, stuff you don't see,
Yes.
right? That's how I see coaching as kind
Yes.
of
Yes. Yes.
that,
Yes.
"Hey, over here, did you see this?" And do you do
Have you ever
one-on-ones
heard
as
it?
well? You go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna say, have you ever heard the explanation of, like, we're all in a jar? So, like, for example, if I was sitting in this cup, I couldn't read this because I'm inside the cup. So if we're inside a jar, there's a label that we all have, and that's what the coach helps read the label. The coach can see the ingredients that you can't see. So when you're stuck in the jar, like, I can't get out and be like, what does that say? You know?
Right.
Does that make sense? So I
I think
compare
I just heard that
coaching to, like,
recently.
mm-hmm,
Something about like you can't read the instructions from inside the box, right? How many of these am I supposed to take per day? I
mm-hmm,
can't see the box. I'm inside the box. I can't read the box. That's why I always thought it was funny on the washing machine when you
yes.
lifted up the lid, the instructions were on the inside of the lid. I'm like, but if the lid is up, the washing machine won't run. So
That's awesome.
so I
Exactly.
know that you do. I know that you talk to like you have must have clients like where right now you're somewhere in, are you still in South Dakota?
I am. I am. I'm in South Dakota now, and my clients are mostly in the United States. Like in the U.S., I have one Canadian, one from Canada, two from Canada, and so. But what's nice about being a RV liver is I get to travel and I get to bump into my clients as I go along. So, like, if I have someone in one state, I make sure that I stay where that client's nearby. So I'm going to see one next week who lives in Iowa while I'm on the other side of South Dakota, close to Iowa. So,
That's
yeah,
very cool. That's very cool
yeah.
because it is true. Like the internet and all of this technology that we were just talking about earlier that was making us crazy has given us so much freedom to help
Mm-hmm.
people beyond borders, right? It's just, and it's very cool that you can still connect with some of them live and in person, right? Because there is, I was
Mm-hmm.
actually a guest on somebody else's podcast a couple days ago, and we were talking about the in person. Like we've been blessed with all this technology and being able to reach it out and learn things, but the in person thing is still
Mm-hmm.
pretty. pretty needed for our social animals, right? Do you ever do any live in person coaching? Like, do you have,
Yes.
yeah? Do you have retreats? That would be cool, wouldn't it? We should have a retreat down at one of the places that you're at.
Yes. And because I'm full-time RV living, I think there's a slight delay in my internet, so I do apologize for the crowd if we're running over each other. So um, that's the nature of where I'm at. Did you hear me okay?
Yeah. I was just making sure I wasn't going to talk on top
Okay.
of you.
Um, yeah, so for coaching for me, you asked me if I do one-on-one coaching, and most of mine is virtual. But when I started out the business pre-COVID, I did a lot of in-person stuff. Um, Retreats are on my list. I haven't done my own retreat yet. I coached and I've done like guest speaking at retreats before, but I haven't held my own. So that's on the list. Um, but there's a lot of in-person things that I want to start putting back into play, like VIP days where we someone travels to where I'm at, where I'm camping, or whether I travel to them. We spend time together doing retreats. Live speaking engagements is starting to come back, but I'm still mainly virtual. So.
Things are starting to come back open. I only ask because I'm curious really about what about this? Have you thought about this? And it is true, like I've been
Mm-hmm.
doing virtual speaking engagements and I do miss the in person, I will say. Like I do miss saying hi to people and being in the space with them. And the energy is different when you're live. But at the same time, I
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
being wherever I want to be, which is part of your freedom thing. So when you're helping people, it's not necessarily like when you're helping people do their empowering their um, freedom freedom vision. That's it. um, I guess it can be anything for them, right? It's not like we're not asking everybody to run out and become coaches because that's not everybody's jam. So part of that getting underneath is helping them figure out what theirs looks like, right?
Yeah, yeah. A big part. I start everybody that I work with, whether I work in the membership program I have, or in the mind, or in the one-on coaching. Everybody starts with the visioning, and I do something called intentional goal setting on a monthly basis, but visioning for the long term, because the vision is crucial for the brain to on what it is that you desire. Because if we don't step into the vision, if we don't create the vision, our brain doesn't know how to function on anything known to what you desire. So how do you get your brain to believe that these things can be true is that you have to really create a very vivid, high energetic vibe vision. So for example, that like everybody you said wants to do a coaching business, but I have a lot of employed clients who have created more freedom with their time, with their location, based on changing positions in their jobs, or they're creating other sources of income like real estate portfolios. They're creating, like, one's creating an app, one's creating a nonprofit, like different things that they're creating so that they can exit and transition from a job into the that they're creating. So your freedom is your version of whatever freedom vision you have is your version of it. And that's what I'm big on, making sure you get back to you and you always align with what's meant for you, because there's a lot of noise. I know you experience this in the same world. There's a lot of noise out there of like this way, this thing, that thing. Oh, all of us, we can all, and that's beautiful. There's tons of amazing strategy and coaching and all that out there. But in the end, you need to take what aligns with you and make it your own. Because if we cutting and doing what everybody else is doing, it's only a short-term success. And then you get into the hustle. The long-term success is when you can get aligned and in tune and own awakening and power. When you can awaken through the vision, or by taking action through what's aligned with you, like in absolute certainty what you believe in and what you do, and you show up fully as you, that's where the magic begins.
Right? Yeah, I hope everybody got that. There was a little up and down, but I think I get you. Well, I know that I get you
Okay, I'm
because
sorry.
okay, no, it's okay. It's the magic of the internet. Listen, one of the jokes that I love because it just points out how impatient we are is the comedians talking about the guy on the airplane, and he's the guy in the seat next to him is super angry because the Wi-Fi is not working, and he's like, "Buddy, we're on a tube flying through the air. Like, this is a miracle, and you're mad because the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Like, look where you are. You're flying through the air. It's amazing." So I'm talking to you like thousands, hundreds, I don't know how far away you are. You're far. And look, it's working.
Because you're in, where are you again?
Toronto.
That's
I'm
right.
up
So
in
you're in
Canada.
Canada. So I'm kidding. I'm in. So oh gosh, I don't know how many miles that is, but yeah. So I
It's far.
appreciate the patience. If you guys missed anything, reach out to me and I can tell you all
Yeah.
again.
Well, and what I really like, so because I've been doing some of this, I do it for myself too, right? It's like, what is the long-term vision? So that and
Mm-hmm.
I've done other podcast episodes, YouTube's like about like, where are you going? And if you don't know where you're going, like you could end up anywhere, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't like the more clear it is, the faster you'll get there, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
at least having some idea of what you do want, because lots of people know what they don't want. I don't want this. I don't want this. Well, what do you want? But then once you have that, then you can start to see the road, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
straight. It's like all over the place. It's not going to be straight, but that's cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, what am I going to do right now to take that first step? And then what's the next step? So I love that. Like, get your big picture, then bring it back to what are we going to do right now? Right?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I want to
Yeah.
tack on a couple other things to that because there's we the difference between when I was taught in the past to like set goals and go for them and smart, specific, measurable, achievable, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The difference now is that I learned how to intentionally set goals, and where that is like, what are you going to feel and experience on the way to the goal? Because the goal is typically a tangible external thing, like money, client success, well, whatever it is, weight loss, whatever it is, right? There's this external thing that we think if we get there, it's going to make us happy and
Right.
excited and all this other stuff. But that lasts like 10 seconds when you get there. So along the journey, what's the intention that you want to feel, see, hear, taste, smell? Like, what do you want the experience to be between now and the intentional goal? And I don't know about you, but it never looks the way we think it's going to be. Like,
Never.
we never, ever. Like, did I think I'd be in a 44-foot box 2 years ago? No. Like, this is not what my freedom was on. Like, this is not what I thought.
We don't think big enough most of the time, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're
Mm-hmm.
constrained by our limiting, I'm going to just, I love it's used a lot, but our limiting belief, the story we're telling ourselves, and how big we can imagine. So what I usually do, and I got this term from James Wedmore, I think it was like, yes, set your intention on as big as you think you want, but leave room for what did he? Oh my God, now I lost the word. It was like for divine magical happenings. Like
Yes.
the universe will throw in like, let's throw her some of this too, and let's give her a trailer, and let's put her on the road. And
Yeah. Yes. 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 Oh, I love that. I love that. Leave room for the divine intervention, the divine downloads, the divine um, that we don't know. Someone said to
exactly.
me just yesterday, I heard this, and they said, "Can you? Oh, I got. Okay, wait. Can you love or can you operate without evidence?" So think about that. Like, can we operate and go and do the stuff for like that like brings us joy for our business and that the things that we love and we stand in our like that cool stuff, but can we operate like that without the evidence of the money, the clients, of this and the that. Because it's going to come when you operate without, if you're willing to operate without evidence.
Right.
Same thing with love. Like, can you love without evidence of someone having to tell you all the time how they feel about you? Can you just trust? Can we trust in the universe? Trust and surrender to the outcome, you know, and just fall in love with the process on the front end.
Right. I'm sure you must have heard, I'm assuming. Have you heard the be do have?
Yes. Oh my
Right.
gosh. Yes.
That's I've and this one is keeps coming to me from all directions. Like I'm in different networking groups, I'm talking to different coaches, I'm listening to different podcasts, and everybody's talking be do have, be do have, be do have. And it's very true, especially when you're talking, you know, how did you phrase it? Like, can you be in it without
Can you
say
operate without evidence?
operate
Like,
without
without
evidence?
proof of success, can you still operate? And can you still do your thing
Right.
without the evidence being like, because we as humans we need to see it before we believe it, but we've got to believe it before we seize it.
Right. And that's the whole be do. I have to write it down so I get it right. The be do have model, because we think that we have to have something to and do some no to be yeah we have to
So
have and do before we can be, but really we need to be first. Am I
so
getting that?
here's how it was explained to me when I first heard it, because I a
Yeah,
lot of and it's funny. I love because I just want the world to know nothing's new. We're all
I
just
know.
kind of like creating our own way of helping and inspiring people. So the more we can do this, the more we can inspire and impact and change the world, right? But there's nothing new. So the be do have, how it's explained to me, is that we are trained in a society to do to have. We do to have. We do to have. Do, go to work, make a paycheck. We go to work, we make a paycheck. We're taught how to do to have. And there's this third part of the triangle, if you think of a triangle, that's being. And we forget to be, and we think that we only have to do to have, but being creates as well, and it's the more important part of the creation. And I've got a really funny story on how I learned how to be, because I did not know how to be whatsoever when I started this
Tell me.
journey. So I was working with my coach, so I took that 6 months off, and then I was 6 months into coaching with my coach. She's amazing, and she said to me, she's like, I said, girl, I was like, I am doing everything. Like, my schedule is full. Like, I had days, nights, weekends. I was going to every networking function. I was doing one-on-ones. I was having massive breakthroughs on these one-on-ones with people. They were just like loving me, and I had no clients. And I'm like, why do I have no clients? I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Wrong question to ask, first of all. I know that now. But what am I doing wrong? And she's like, okay. She's going through the process, and she's like, there's two things. One, she realized I wasn't even making offers on my calls. That's the first thing, because I went through this like money belief and yada yada. So that aside, then she said, because we discovered, like, she challenged me. She goes, okay, this was September 2019. She goes, October. She goes, I want you to do nothing. And I laughed so hard. I was like, how does a girl who comes from 70 hours a week in the restaurant business do nothing?
Right.
Like, I always was busy. Like, and the reason why I was always busy, totally another topic, is that I wanted to avoid myself, and I didn't want to like feel, and I didn't want to be, right? And so she's like, I want you to do nothing in October. And I was like, okay. She's like, I'm going to trust you because you've got the business I want right now, right? And she's like, take your calendar, whatever you got, keep it, but don't add anything else to it. I'm like, well, what if someone needs a session? She's like, well, you'll schedule it further out. Like, you're booked. Okay, fine. I was like, what do I do with all the free time? She's like, go on a walk, play with your dog, meditate, go for, I don't know, a swim. I don't know, do whatever you want, but like, do nothing to do with the business. Just be. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. So I did it, and I made money. Like, I went from like 1,000 a month to like, I think 3,000. So like, I tripled my money, right? And this is like, I'm new and I'm learning this stuff. She's like, all right, we're going to do it again. So November, we're going to do it again. And I was like, it was hard enough filling the time. She's like, you don't have to fill the time. And I was like, oh. So I did. I lessened my schedule, and I kept it to a certain, because she had originally also asked me, she's like, what do you want your schedule to be? I'm like, I want to be Monday through Thursday, 10 to 4, nothing else. Because I would only dream of that. Like, that was never, it was nights, weekends, everything in the restaurant business, right?
That's like fantasy life, right?
That's like, But she's like, let's get there. Let's see. So October, I did it again. I only filled those blocks. and I made more money. I went up to like 45 or like it's around 5. December, the month where no one spends money because it's Christmas, like on coaching and stuff. I hit like 55 to 6. So 3 months of lessening my schedule, doing more internal meditation, self time, relaxation, nourishment. And I was like, finally, like 3 months in, I'm like, okay, I get it. So that's how I learned the trust and surrender concept, because I didn't get the trust and surrender concept. And then there's so many concepts I learned from that. Trust and surrender. I learned less is more. I learned how to be with me and not be scared to be alone with me, and actually feel and process and and do that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's so much I learned from that. Trust and surrender was the biggest pivot in my business.
Right. because we'd have gone through that system of you have to work your ass off. If
That's your
you
honor.
Yeah, if you want to get ahead, you have to do this and this and this. So, and we believe them because that's what everybody else does. And we think the people who don't have to do it have had some magical pill dropped on them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
They
Do
just
they
got
have
lucky.
They just got lucky. They were just born that way. They're way smarter than I am. No, they're not. Not even not even Buddy, what's his name from the electric car place. Not even he's necessarily smarter than you are. But it is true that you have to give yourself that space, and this is something that we don't give enough time to, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why, that's why my podcast is called Back to Me. You even said it. You had to get back to yourself. I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
do.
do.
And women especially. I mean, doing constantly, like, and multitasking, like, get the kids, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, get the mega job, look after the family, look, and if they're in the in between generation, look after the parents, look after the kids, look after the partner, look after everything. And then they, at some point, hopefully not, burn it, but burnout is happening right now, especially with all of this 2 years of stuff. And they don't know how to, still, even at burnout, they don't know how to stop. I was guilty of that. I was like driving myself insane, especially
Mm-hmm.
like, and then I had this one corporate job and I was killing myself. And when I did burn out, I couldn't get going again. Like, I was just like trying. I couldn't get going again. And it took a long time to figure out, um, to recognize what it was
Mm-hmm.
and to say, okay, well, I don't want to do that again. Right. So what do I do now? And, everybody is I always, because I've been teaching yoga for so long, right? I've been teaching yoga for 18 years. I always tell people, everybody's an experiment of one. So I will do what's right for me. I can give you this is my yoga class. I have 2 rules in yoga. You have to breathe and don't hurt yourself. But I think that's a rule for life. Keep breathing. Don't cause yourself any pain, and
Mm-hmm.
just see how it is just to sit with that
Mm-hmm.
and see what comes to you. And I just was reading a book called Do Less, Be More,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about what you did. It talks about like doing nothing so that
Mm-hmm.
your brain has time to to think about, not even think about, to daydream about what it wants, because you won't know what you want unless you give yourself some space for that being part. I love that she made you take all that time off. That is so good.
It was painful. It was painful in a good way. Like something you said about the burnout story. It's people are like, why do we always have to hit like a rock bottom or like a really like belly out to like go to take to recognize and see that we need to make a change, right? Well, it's because we have to experience the duality of life, right? We have to experience the pain and the hard things to be able to really enjoy to recognize the joy, the love, and all that other stuff. But here's like one of the key things is like we don't have to live there. We don't have to live in that past and all that muck. Like we don't even have to like even go there. I've learned that in my coaching journey too, that we don't have to go there to move forward. we get to talk about what we want and what we desire and what we vision and all the other stuff. We don't have to talk about the I don't want this and I don't want that. Because something that we were talking about earlier that just popped up when you were talking was that the brain science behind it, which you've probably like in touch, I don't know if it's like Joe Dispenza and all those guys, but the brain science behind it is like if you create, your brain is going to function on whatever the known is. And if we constantly talk about the past that we cannot change, and we constantly talk about the future worries we cannot control, it's going to find every way to make those come true and give you more and more and more of it. But there's a third place we get to live, and that's that future desires and visions and what you want and what you get to like just that fun stuff. And if we can really step into that stuff, then the brain's like, I'm going to find every way possible for you to take action to achieve, to get these things and make them even, because they're true. So now I can take action on them and to enhance them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like we can create new neural pathways in our brain by elevated emotion on repetition creates a new neural pathway in your brain.
And I mean, your brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening and a memory, right? If you think about something that had an intense emotion, it's going to create exactly that same physical reaction as if it's happening right now, because your brain doesn't know the difference.
Right.
And I like the phrase that worrying is just praying for something you don't want all the time.
Right. Right.
Like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And your brain's like, okay, well, we'll make sure that happens then, right? It's if you keep focusing on that. And if you, and it's not like we're not trying to pretend it's sunshine and rainbows and unicorns all the time, right? But if you can feel that energy of, if you do hit what that thing is that you want, and if you can feel that energy regularly, and if you get a vision of it, and it becomes clearer over time. I mean, it does take practice, right? You're not going to get it unless you're really good at it already.
Oh,
but I was terrible at it. Mine gets clearer and clearer every time I do it. You can start to see, oh, things will start to come in. Things will start to come in. And I love the fact that it's like because your brain doesn't know the difference, it believes you already have it. So then it's going to make sure that you keep getting it, right? And it's not just entrepreneurs who burn out, and it's not just corporate people who burn out, and you don't have to burn out. Let's throw that in there. You don't have to burn out to make a change.
No.
You know, you don't have to do that. If you see it,
struggle is not real.
Yeah. If you see the wall coming towards you, turn the corner. Right.
Right. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I thought you were going to say something super cool, so I was just waiting.
No, there's so many super cool things coming out of this conversation. And now I can't remember what my last super cool thing was. So give me a minute while I look in the sky and find it.
Yes, I know. It's like, it's up in that cloud right over there. The one shaped like a kitten. No.
My clients laugh at me because I'm like, oop, there it is. Wait, no, there it is. Hold on. Okay, there it is. I'm back.
It's like I'm trying to find the file, right? So this actually happens to me more now because I had a stroke in October, and now I'll sit there going, oh my God, what was that thing? And I cannot find the file anywhere. So sometimes I'll have to I'll write a word down on a piece of paper so I remember it's like I can re-find my files. But hey,
I remember what I was thinking.
Do it.
Hear my wonderful thing that I was thinking.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
I remember. You were talking about how we were talking about how the brain creates whatever we're thinking. Like we create our own personal reality through our thoughts and our feelings and stuff like that, and visioning. And so, but it doesn't always turn out the way we think. So here's a funny story of I wrote down 2 years ago how eventually I want a large property with house with, I want to have a couple horses, maybe some chickens. I want to have this on a lake view with a mountain view on a lake, but with a pool, all sorts of stuff, right? So I wrote all this stuff out, and very ranch style. So traveling in our RV travels, we ended up back in December. We ended up at my friend's house in San Antonio, Texas, and we got to stay there. We had to stay there for 5 months because our RV got hit and it had to get repaired. So it took 5 months to repair the thing.
Oh my God.
But long story short, guess what I lived on? I lived on a ranch with horses, with chickens, with a pool, with like the whole thing minus the mountain view, because Texas doesn't have a lot of mountains where we were. But minus the mountain view and the lake, I had everything that I wrote down, and I didn't have to pay for it. Like I got to
Right?
experience it, and I got to live on it for free.
You're not Jensen Chero in disguise, are you? Do you know who Jensen Chero is? She she wrote
Hey,
the
I'm on my
You Are
way.
a she
I'm on
wrote
my way.
yeah. She wrote the You Are a Badass books, and she tells a story almost exactly like that, where she wanted to write her book, and she
Yeah,
described
she's
it
one of the first books.
exactly. Where are you now? Oh, there
I'm
she
here now.
is. There you are. Right? It's like she knew what she wanted. And here you go. It's the universe's, you got to tell it what you want. You can't just say, I want to be happy. You got to be specific. One of the podcasts I listen to, he says, when you're asking for something from the universe, you don't go into a restaurant and go, I want a sandwich. You have to say, I want a sandwich. I want it to be on rye bread. I want it to have this toppings. I want this in the middle. So you can't tell the universe, I want a sandwich. You have to tell it what kind of sandwich you want, right? I love that you had horses
Yeah.
and chickens.
Yeah, and they had goats. They had these mini Nigerian goats, and they had babies while we were there. It was just a cool experience to like just I soaked it all in, and I'm happy to be back on traveling again, because the whole purpose of this was for us to travel and see everything. But it was magical that happened. It was magical that we got hit on our way to their house, because their place gave us the freedom to get it fixed. So again, not the way we planned it, but it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to.
You can't plan that kind of thing. It's not like you would say to the universe, can you crash our camper so that we can spend 5 months in this house? No, you can't.
Yes.
You can't plan for that.
If we're going to get into an accident, give us the most ideal place to get into an accident. And that was it. That was it.
Oh my gosh. And that's why it's like you can't think big enough of the things that could be an amazing happenings for you. I try to dream as big as I can, and I know I can't even dream as big as the potentiality of everything and that could happen, right? But being open, being able to vision the good stuff that you want, let's whatever you want to call it, the universe deliver a little cherry on top, right? It's like, oh, I'll give you that, and hey, you want some of this too?
Yep. That's why I end all of my visions and more. Like I put the end more at the end of it,
because
then good. It like opens it up to like whatever they want to deliver to me. I'll take it. I'll receive it,
even if it's an accident.
Yeah, even if it's that. Hey man, maybe that was the universe telling me to slow down, because we did a lot of traveling really quickly, and it's like, slow down, stay a while, and just enjoy. Okay, now you can go back.
Take a month off. What am I supposed to do with that time? Nothing. Do nothing.
Love
so
it.
So your group programs, do you meet regularly? How do you do your group programs?
So I've got a couple different options. I have a monthly membership that I just started this year. It's my lower investment program, where it's $111 to get in per month, or $11.11 for the whole year, and you get 4 live calls every month. So the first one, it's kind of funny. We do goals and intention setting live on Zoom. I walk them through like the visualization process of setting all those sensory things around the goals that they desire. So every month we do, in the beginning of the month, the first week of the month, we do that. Second week, we do a coaching call with me, where I laser coach whoever needs it in the moment. I was like, this is where you got to take the initiative and come to the call with, what do you need support on? And so we go and we coach individually through the group with a group there. And the third call is a workshop where I'm teaching some form of strategy, some form of how to. And the fourth week we teach, we have a guest expert come in, and talk on a topic that they were really passionate about and that they're an expert on. So anything from relationships to finances to health and wellness, whatever. And they've come in and talked about their thing. So that's my like, let's get into whether it's getting into my energy and seeing if I'm the right coach for you, or whether it's you're just getting started into like the coaching and self-development world. Or you just want a community and some, whatever it is, that it's just been an amazing experience so far. The second layer for me is a mastermind. I run masterminds throughout the year. Every 2 months, you can either roll in and stay in it, or you can do 2 month chunks of it. And the mastermind is really like, you already know that it's for the women who they already know the how. They already know the how to, but they're looking for more of like the why am I thinking this way, like, or help me think differently. So it's more of that inner behind the scenes, but they're already self-led women who already they're already doing their successful thing. They already have, but they know there's more, but they still need the women. And so collaboratively in the mastermind, everybody helps each other.
Well,
And
and
so,
masterminds, I love them because it's like the power of all of those brains
oh my gosh.
multiplies, right? I belong
Mm-hmm.
to a couple of masterminds because I'm addicted to them.
They're magical. And like, so what I found this year more recently, like I've run a lot of group programs. I've run like 6 to 8 week group programs. I've run a 6 month group program all like the last 2 years. I've run different group programs and I've been testing different things just to see like, where's my magic? And what I discovered more recently is exactly that. Like, I am a mentor at heart. Like, I can coach and I can teach, but there's a difference between coaching and coaching is like teaching the how and like helping people through the strategy. Mentorship is using your wisdom and your experiences and your stories to help people think differently and move through differently and see the world maybe a little bit differently to help them move forward. But they already are someone who thinks in a forward focused and driven like way, but it's like they just needed that, like you said, that mirror from like another.
Yeah.
And the mentorship in a mastermind is everybody, like you said, and the collaboration. And what I created as my one-on-one VIP program is they get that mastermind for free with the program of my one-on-one, because I absolutely firmly strongly believe that you need both. You need the one-on-one and you need the community of like-minded women. So they get to meet with me twice a month one-on-one, and they get the community every week of the mastermind, and they have a Voxer like support and stuff like that. And so those are my layers currently. And every now and then I'll throw out like a 1, 2, 3, 7 day coaching program, like a 7 day slow investment amount, come in and like learn about marketing, learn about
Right.
how to master the networking group, and like different strategies and things that I've learned over time that's helped me get to where I am today. But the containers is that membership, the mastermind, and then the one-on-one program gets mastermind with it.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the membership model really helps people access, because I think some people are shy and they're like, I don't know what I don't know about this thing. So they feel safe, safety in numbers. And
Mhm.
some people, it's just like that first step in is like just dipping their toe in. And when they see the big changes, it's like, you can still get big changes in groups. Like maybe you stay in groups because that's where you get your jam and you
Mhm.
see lots of change. And then there's people who just want like, no, I just want to talk to you by myself. Like, okay,
Mhm.
that's cool too. Like,
Mhm.
whatever. It's like everybody's an experiment of one. What's going to work the best for you to get what you want, right? And get your
100%.
what's going to be your version of your most ideal life. That's so
Because I will
awesome.
tell you, there's one thing I want to add to that. Like, I went through a zone last year around November where I was over coaching myself. Because what happens as you get into this world is like there's so many shiny objects and there's so many things, right? And then what happens is you can't hear yourself anymore. So my goal as a coach is to get people into the right area that will help them get closer and closer to really listening to their own intuition and guidance, and not like my way is the highway. Like, do what I like, do this, and you'll be, you know what, like what's going to make me successful is not necessarily going to make you successful. So I
Yeah.
can share ideas and thoughts and strategies, but in the end, I'm going to help you get as close back to you and own, again, awaken, empower, and own you, because you have to do it aligned with you. And I like fired, like not fired, but I let go of all my coaching last November and I went rogue. And I
Oh,
was like,
no.
I went rogue. I had no one-on-one coach. I had no group coach. I had nothing. And I just got quiet for 2 months. And then January came, November and December. And then January came and I was like, all right, universe, what's next for me? And then I had a couple networking groups that were doing small masterminds, small group masterminds. And then there was and then there's a 5 or 6 of us that were in other programs together, got together and just started doing like bi-weekly calls with each other to just kind of check in on the energetics of things and stuff like that. So I warn people and I will tell people if they're not the right fit for my programs, because you can't, if you overcoach yourself, you're going to lose yourself. In the
Yeah.
beginning, you need it. In the beginning, you kind of need the guidance and you need the ideas so that you go and like you try things. Cause I don't know if you agree with me on this, but you have to do to get clarity. You can't wait to get clarity.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't like learn to get clarity. No, you've got to do your thing and try it and throw spaghetti on the wall. And that's how you get clarity on you and your clients and your ideal markets for whatever you do. So
Even a job, like everything that you want to do, you can't learn to ride a bike by reading about it, right? You got to go get on it and try it out. And
yeah,
it's like you got to get on it and fall down a couple times. This week,
yes.
I did a earlier podcast, one of my short ones that was called, we're celebrating the wrong things, because we hide from making mistakes. We're afraid to make mistakes and it freezes us. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
go make all the mistakes and have a party when you make a mistake, because that means
Mm-hmm.
you learned something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yep.
so awesome. So I'm going to put in, we're going to have all the information on how they can get on with you and call you and have a chat with you. But I want to ask you, we've got lots of, truth bombs dropping, but do you have a parting word of wisdom for everyone?
I feel like we've
Mm,
said so many of them.
I know. I know. I'll pull out the
um,
sound bites and
right? Like, oh gosh. So, um, first of all, your desires are meant for you. If you have one, go for it, because your desires are meant for you. They're from up above. They're from your higher power, whatever you believe in, and you have all the capabilities to create the destiny that you're meant to have. I call my people's destiny makers. Like, we're freedom seekers who are creating destinies, and you get to create it. It's up to you. Now, you can't do it alone, and whatever we talked earlier in the thing about, you got to find what's aligned with you, whatever fits you, whether it's group or whether it's, but you can't do this alone. So surround yourself with like amazing people, and
right.
surround yourself with amazing people who uplift you and bring you to places that you just never thought you could go, side by side. That's why I love mentorship. That's why I love masterminds, because we walk side by side together. I know better. It's funny. I said to my coach, and I said to one of my clients the other day, she said something, and I said, listen, my goal is for you to outrun me. Like, my
Right.
goal is to get you guys, everybody I work with, I want you to surpass me. Like, if they're building a coaching business and that, I
Yeah.
want you to surpass me. I want you to go like leaps and bounds beyond me. It doesn't make me any less of a coach, and doesn't make you any like there's no like, we're all the same. Like, we're just taking our own journeys and staying true to ourselves. And so that was my goal in the restaurant business, is I was like, I wanted everybody promoted through, and I didn't care if they promoted over me. It didn't matter.
Right.
Like, my
Comparison
goal,
kills, right? Comparison kills joy. So
celebrate each
be
other's successes
yeah,
too. Mm.
be in love with everybody's success, and find what makes you happy, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you need? That's that's all you should worry about. What do you need to be your most awesome self?
Mm-hmm. You have to come first. That's a really good point. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
You have to come first.
Yeah. That's like so much good stuff in there.
So good.
Oh my god. I feel like we're going to do this again sometime.
Yes, anytime.
If you're ever in the northern part of the country, just send me a little message and maybe I can pop down and see you.
Okay, cool. How
Sound
hard is
cool?
it to cross the border? I gotta know, how hard is it to go across the border nowadays?
I have no idea. I haven't done it in a while. It can't be that hard.
Right? Yeah.
People are doing it every day.
Cool. I know, like, during COVID, there was like a lot of like restrictions and this and that. So we were like, because we want to do Alaska and Canada next year. That's kind of on our agenda for next year.
Totally do
So
it.
yeah,
Awesome.
next summer.
All right. Thank you so much, by the way.
You're very
Thank you so
welcome. Thank you for
much.
having me.
And stay safe out there. And I can't wait to hear about more of your journeys.
Follow me on Facebook because that's where everything is.
All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.